Hey folks, Budget RC here. I have a review for this video. I'm reviewing a 10th scale motor and ESC combo that was sent to me by Banggood. I'll have the link below so that you can check out the product specifications. It's a 3650 brushless motor. Let's see here. Come on. 3650 brushless motor. This one in particular is a 3100 kV. These motors are available in 2050, 2300 kV, 3100 like this one, as well as a 3900 kV. Generally, I expect to see 10th scale motors come in a little bit higher kV ranges. The 2050 and especially the 2300. Those two seem a little bit low to me. However, those do seem like they can handle higher voltage levels. So if you wanted to do a 3S or perhaps even a 4S system on a 2050 kV, they may work out pretty well. The 3100 and the 3900 I think are pretty appropriate for something like an off-road vehicle. In particular, I'll be putting these into my son's circuit, which has monster truck tires. I think a two-wheel drive monster truck application would be great. I chose the 3100 instead of the 3900 because it is going into my son's vehicle. I didn't want something that's too crazy. I think the 3100 will be a pretty good match to a stadium truck style vehicle or a truggy type vehicle. Anyway, getting back to what this is, overall I think it looks pretty good. The build quality seems very nice. The outer case has got a black anodized finish. Nice looking end piece here. They do advertise ABEC 5 bearings. The ABEC bearings are supposed to be a good quality bearing. Hopefully we'll get good life out of these. The front here, lots of mounting options. It's your typical 3 millimeter shaft that your typical 10th scale stuff will use. What looks like a 12 gauge wire here, 4 millimeter banana connectors. All real nice. And again, like I said, the overall build quality on this, at least visually looks really good. The wires are a little bit stiff. They have a nice covering on them. And to be honest, now that I'm feeling it, that covering may be hiding a somewhat thin gauge wire. I don't know if you can tell here, but there's a lot of, you can see how much I can squeeze it. The wire inside doesn't feel like a 12 gauge like it may look. So there may be a little bit of smoke and mirrors going on here, but we'll see. But again, overall, I think the motor looks great. The speed control, again, first impressions I think are pretty good. It's advertised as being waterproof. I'm skeptical. You can see that the printed wiring board right here is exposed on both ends. And there's what I see to be a bit of a gap between the heatsink and the printed wiring board. Seems like water could find its way in here. Now, the circuit board could be conformal coated. I can't tell from looking at it. It doesn't look like it's got any sort of a conformal coating on it to me, but it may be. But again, there's not much exposed either. I don't know how well this would handle being submerged, but I suspect it should handle splashing reasonably well. Aside from that, I mean, everything looks pretty good. A couple things that I noticed is that, and I suspect this is related to cost-saving measures. When you're dealing with such a low-priced combo, I guess there's always going to be compromises. The fan here, you can see that the fan wires are soldered directly to the board. If you need to replace the fan, you've got a little bit more work to do. You're going to have to, unsolder these connections to take those fan leads off and solder the new ones on. Now, with respect to soldering, these globs of solder here, I don't know. Maybe they're okay. They look like they maybe could have had a little bit more heat when they were soldered. I suspect that this is lead-free solder. I know lead-free solder It's more difficult to work with, and especially with cheaper electronics. I've always had concerns. I've had a number of cheaper speed controls fail on me after a short period of time, and it's not because they burned up. And I think it's related to poor solder connections. Over here again, I don't know. It doesn't look like it flowed as well as I'm used to seeing. But again, that may be okay with lead, with the lead-free stuff. I'm not sure. One other observation, we'll see if it ends up being an issue, is that like I've seen on some of these other similar speed controls, you've got a simple on-off switch here with a 2-wire lead. There's no button. Typically you see an on-off switch with an additional button, and that's how you set your throttle calibration, and it also allows you to go into the programming mode so that you can program the speed control without the use of a plug-in card. This does not offer that option. There is a card available. It doesn't come with this combo, which I think is disappointing because you can't program it in any other way. I think if you're not going to provide an option to program directly, it needs to come with the card. I've got a card on the way. It's not here yet, so we're going to put it in and see what we get as is. And as soon as the card gets here, I will go through some of the programming. The instructions that come with it do tell you how to do the programming with the card. Some of the options that are selectable are your low voltage cutoff, your punch control, your reverse force, and your neutral range. Not a lot of options, but it covers the basics. I think your low voltage cutoff is, of course, probably one of your most critical. I'm not sure what the default is. The instructions say that the default value is 3.1 volts. That's a little bit low to me. I usually like to use a little bit higher level, just to be safe. But again, we've got a card on the way, so we'll see what happens when we get the card here. In the meantime, we'll hook it up. Hopefully I won't need to do any throttle adjustments because, well, I can't. So that's it for now. I'm going to put it into the ECX circuit behind it, and then I will come back and we'll see where we get. And we're back. I went ahead and installed the motor and speed control into the circuit. I've given it a couple of short runs to see how it goes. Unfortunately, it's been raining here all weekend, so I haven't had much chance to use it. But I did get out there a couple of quick times. The first time was with, I think, a 21 tooth pinion, which was a little bit of a step up from, I think, the 19 tooth that I had with the 17.5 motor that used to be in here. Compared to that motor, this one wasn't a whole lot faster. It seemed like it was a little bit faster, but it had gobs more torque. Taking off out of the hole, it seemed to take off fairly smooth, and then once it got rolling, the front tires would come right up. I think the punch control on this speed control is set a little bit soft, which explains that type of behavior. But once it gets going, it seems like it has all kinds of torque. In my yard, in the grass, it just kept wanting to lift the front tires off the ground to the point where it was hard to drive. I had to keep slowing down the steer. It just, all kinds of torque to pull the front tires up. When I was driving it in the grass was wet at the time. I'm sure you can see some of the grass and junk stuck to the vehicle now. I got some splash on the motor, maybe a little bit on the speed control, and so far no ill effects, so that's good news. I brought it in. I jumped up to a 23 tooth pinion. That really seemed like it woke up the top end. It seems like it's quite a bit faster now, and it seems like the front tires don't want to lift so badly anymore, although I didn't go into the grass since I've done that. So we've got a little bit more testing to do. I also want to get some top speed testing, as well as get a couple of packs through it and see what my temperatures look like. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot with that 23 tooth pinion, because I do like that top speed. It seemed to put it right in a zone where I felt like it had enough to be fun. Still had plenty of torque. It just seemed like a great all-around feel. One more thing I wanted to mention, and I'll see if I can get some video of this when I do my running video, is that on the bottom end, it has no cogging. You can't go super slow with it. Once you get to the on point of the throttle, it kind of wants to get going. And that might be because of the way I have it geared to compensate for the lower KV. But no cogging, which is great. I'm really happy with that. It's a very inexpensive combo here, but it seems so far to behave like a better one. Smooth, seems like it's got plenty of power. No cogging on the low end. So far, I'm pretty happy. We'll keep using it and we'll see what happens. But so far, this definitely gets a thumbs up from me. And now we're going to do some cogging tests, and we're going to do a 2S speed run and see how fast it goes. So first we're going to try the cogging. We're going to start take off very slowly. You can see it's got a little bit of a hair trigger, but there's no discernible cogging. Alright, now we'll do a speed run. Let's see what we got. I think we got 30.76. So just a hair over 30. All right, so we've done our installation and we've done our tests to see how much cogging there is, as well as a speed test. Now I'm back in the workshop, and I wanted to give some final thoughts. With respect to this Racerstar 3650 motor and 60 amp speed control, I think the most obvious pro here is that it's cheap. This is 40 bucks from Banggood. The fact that it works at all, I think, makes it worth the money. Some of the other pros I think are just gravy. Those pros include smooth power delivery. It doesn't feel peaky to me. It's got good linear throttle control. There's no cogging on the bottom end. It's a nice smooth takeoff, and it feels like a nice system. Secondly, I think it's got good power. I've got the slipper clutch set a little bit loose here. When I had the slipper clutch clamped down, especially in the grass, this thing was a wheelie monster. It's got all kinds of power, and I think from our speed test too, we've seen that it's pretty quick. Now, I don't know that this is the final gearing that I'm going to stick with. I still need to do some more running in grass and on dirt and start seeing what temperatures look like. I may need to gear it down to keep it in a happy temperature range. But with the 25 tooth pinion that's on there now, this thing hit a little over 30 miles an hour. It's got good power. I really couldn't ask for more out of this, especially considering it's only a 3100 kV. If you go with a 3900 kV, as long as it's in a slightly light, as long as it's not in too heavy of a vehicle, I think you're going to be able to see even significantly more speed. With respect to cons, there are a few. My first and the biggest is that there's no way to program the speed control without the card. I've got a card on the way. I'll do a follow-up video once I get the card. I do want to change some of the parameters in the speed control. I want to check the default setting for the LiPo cutoff. I like to run as high a voltage as possible. And I also want to play with the punch control. Right now, this thing feels like it's really soft right off the line, and then the power comes on hard shortly thereafter. Because of that, when you goose the throttle, it starts to take off easy, then bam, it surprises you and wants to lift the front end. I'm going to play with the speed control a little bit. I think I'll probably actually increase the punch control and let the slipper try to accomplish a little bit smoother delivery of power. I'd rather have the speed control just hit when I pull the throttle as opposed to coming on strong a little after you pull the throttle. But we'll play with it. I don't know what other features we may have. There may be timing options, so on and so forth, that'll allow me to dial it a little bit better. But that said, my only other complaint, because there is no way to program this thing, I really think that the card should be included with the kit. Maybe some beginners don't really need to mess with it, but at the very least, there are some basic adjustments that I think a lot of people would want to make. The card is under $7. It's not a lot of money. I'd rather see this kit sell for $45 with the card, or better yet, build the speed control with at least a button on it so that you can do your beep programming. That really wouldn't add any cost at all to the speed control, and I think it'll give a lot more usability to the end user. My next complaint or con is just with respect to the packaging. When I received this, I've got another video. I may or may not cut it into my final presentation here, but I took another video when I first received it. Right before I opened the package, I could feel the speed control in the packaging. It had come out of the box. I opened up the packaging, and sure enough, there was some protective wrapping around the box, but it was wrapped in such a way that it left the end open, and the speed control came out of that end of the box. I've had similar issues with other packaging that comes from overseas. I know as a way to try to save a little bit on shipping costs, they want to minimize the bulk and the weight. But it doesn't really take much more time to just put some tape on it and do whatever you need to do just to make sure that the box doesn't open up in transit. Again, it was a minor criticism. It really made no difference in the long run. The speed control wasn't damaged. The speed control works great. So overall, I think for the money, you just can't beat it. Time will tell with respect to what kind of reliability we get out of it. But my initial impressions are quite positive. I think for $40, it's a really, really nice setup, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. As a matter of fact, my cousin has a T4 that had a brushed system that he burned up, and I'm probably going to pick up another one of these to put into there. It's a nice system, and it'll serve its purpose perfectly in that vehicle, just like it does in here. So until the next review, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys learned something from it. This is Budget RC, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.